Holy crap, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Knife Nuts podcast. My name is Levon, and joining me are the three idiots who were on the last episode. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dave here.
Hey, it's Jake again.
What's up, guys? Brian here.
Wow, all three. I can't believe, Brian, you kept your promise to be a host on the show permanently.
Yeah, things change, so I'm not too worried about it.
You must not be that busy. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, what's on our agenda for today?
All right, well, our main topic is why knives, where I think we're going to poorly attempt to deconstruct what it is about knives that we love so much. And we've got a lot of news this week, actually, since it was a busy week in the knife world, to say the least.
Definitely been a lot going on.
Yes.
It's like we joined the podcast world just in time for this sort of bullshit.
Yeah, this is great. We just have an infinite amount of content now.
It's perfect. So, shall we start? What's everybody carrying today? Is anyone carrying a knife? I'm still wearing gym shorts. I haven't gone anywhere today, but obviously I have a knife in front of me. And that's the Olamic Wayfarer. I have the highly polished blade. It's a drop point. I think it's a few years old. I got it from another Instagram member with the white G10 and the blue C-Tech and this wavy backspacer and a G10 clip. It's like the only 3D clip that I've ever used that I genuinely love. Well, one of them.
That's kind of funny because I expect a G10 to have no flex whatsoever. But hey, if they can pull it off, good for them.
It's great.
It holds up to everyday carry?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
It's not one. I'll tell you, it's not a knife that gets any particularly hard use, considering it's got a high polished blade. But
and white G10.
White G10. It's like cars. It stays cleaner better than black.
You wear velvet gloves when you play with it.
I wear velvet gloves everywhere at any time. I'm wearing velvet gloves.
Nice. Well, today I carried my newly acquired Chris Reeve Cozy, the large one, with the carbon fiber scale from Knife Art. And I expected it to not like it as much as I do, and I love it. But
oh, wait. I thought you got the small Cozy.
No, I would never get the small one.
That thing's a piece of garbage.
I've heard the ergonomics aren't great on it.
No.
But
I like the large one, which is basically a Sebenza 25, right?
Yeah, but with some very minor changes that you have to really look under the hood to see. The one thing that is noticeable is that it's more hollow ground than the 25, which is slightly more flat. It's just a smaller radius, I guess, to the hollow grind, and it uses the ceramic ball detent locking system like the Umnumzan. And yeah, so far I really like it. I'm quite happy with it. It's the first new Chris Reeve I bought in a while, and the packaging is excellent. It's like a Rolex. It comes with a box with way too much stuff in it.
I was just thinking, I hope we attract the listeners that are really into knives, because I just almost fell asleep at how boring that was.
Don't you goddamn say a word bad about Chris Reeve.
Today on Knife Nuts, we're going to be talking about lock bar pressure.
Oh, do you want me to talk to you about the changes in the washers?
Also, hardware color to bronze or not to bronze.
Hey, don't get me started. I'll talk about the changes to the washers from the 25 to the Cozy.
Oh my God, kill me now!
I have an erection just thinking about it.
We can talk about the difference between the old Megalodon from Carson and the new version from.
We could actually. That's a fantastic knife, but I did not carry it today.
That I carry many days. Any day that I think I'm going to be abusive to snail trails on bead blasted titanium, but today was actually an Aaron Frederick SMK custom day, out and about, and then back to the Strider PT for gym shorts, because it's the gym shorts knife.
How is Aaron Frederick stuff? He was a maker that's been around for a while, but has been always way under the radar.
Very under the radar, yeah. I almost talked to him about that exact topic, but didn't know how to approach it without being too offensive, because his stuff is really, objectively, it should be much more popular, and he's often right there alongside bigger names, and works with John W. Smith obviously pretty frequently. My introduction to that was about as cool as it gets. I won the grand prize knife at the East Coast Custom Knife Show last year. Did I already tell this story? Is this just repetitious?
No, I've never heard this.
I'll tell it again. I'll just tell it again anyway, because it was the first, potentially last time I ever won anything like that. So Yeah, so I followed up by actually buying one of his knives a few months later, and I had talked to him about the gift knife because it was a really unique collaboration that he did with John W. Smith, and I can't find a flaw or anything I don't like about them. And for the price, I think his slightly tactical line is really neat. It's I don't think any of us have found anything that we didn't like about it. So
yeah, they're very
very cool.
They're all they're all handmade, Jake, right? That's
they are, and this one is zirconium and a really, hand fitted and handmade everything, and just completely under the radar. Just a really neat knife for not getting any recognition, but
yeah, they're beautiful. That's all right. Yeah. I was just going to say they are beautiful.
He has some really wacky designs, though. Some of the ones for
some of them are
prying.
Some of them are just flat out strange. This is one of the very traditionally shaped knives, the SMK. If you want to Google image search that one.
We will at some point. Now, Brian, I know you didn't carry anything today since you're basically drowned in knives every day of the week. But what's going on in the shop today?
Just getting back to finishing up these last orders. I'm trying to get my act together here so I can start getting some stuff ready for Blade.
And you just you're starting on the second batch of mini Typhoons right now?
No, I'm finishing up with the first batch. So I have maybe 20 more to go, and then I'll be on to getting the next batch going. But that'll be a little while, because I still have to make blades and
you've got something
the heat treat, and it's a while.
And you got something special coming along soon, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you already teased it on Instagram, right? The dagger.
Yep. I showed a picture of it on at least a picture of one of the blades on Instagram. It's I'm going to make two. I'm bringing two down to Blade with me, and one's going to be a tactical version, and the other's going to be a little bit fancier version. So should be pretty cool.
Any other details you can talk about? I noticed the grind was a little different than what you normally do.
Well, on the tactical one, I did a flat grind, but on the fancier one, the one with the Demosteel, I did a hollow grind, but it's actually two different radiuses in that hollow grind, so it comes pretty steep once it comes up to the fuller in the middle. It's kind of cool. Gives it a nice profile.
Yeah, it looks really dramatic. In person, it's insane. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that, and I'm sure the guys are too.
I'm looking forward to get on something different. It's that's kind of why I did this. I just, making the same knife over and over for people, I never have a chance to change things up. So it's and when I do, then people, get upset that they didn't get in when that happened, and so it's easier just to come up with something different that I'm only going to make a few of, that I can kind of explore a little bit. Don't have to justify making money on it per se.
Right. I can see how they can get a little monotonous making purple knife after purple knife.
Fucking purple knives everywhere.
You don't hear me complaining.
Prince is dead, guys. He died. I'm sorry.
But his memory lives on in every purple knife.
The thing is that you look at this color spectrum of titanium, there's only so many colors you can do that really work. So they're going for something different. Unfortunately, everybody went for the same thing. And 6 months or a year from now, when they're all trying to get rid of their knives, there's going to be 15 purple knives on the market.
Yeah, not to make the same podcast twice, but you know what color always works? Gray. Gray works.
I agree.
You agree?
I agree.
All right, just end the podcast there. We're done.
Brian,
and good.
Nice
seeing you guys. Brian actually did have one question before we get too far. So, are the hollow grinds, are those done by hand or CNC?
No, they're done on my machine.
Okay. Is that harder to do than flat grinding with a CNC? Because I feel like a lot of production companies avoid hollow grinds for reasons unknown to me. And I assumed it was more difficult.
It makes things harder to hold, You
mean
it really depends on how you go about it. If you're 3D'ing the blade, it doesn't make a difference. Don't even have to do a hollow. I can make it a profile, I can make it a shape that gets thinner and then fatter in a different section if you want, and morphs to a nether grind. You can do whatever you want as long as you can draw it, but that's a slow process to 3D machine blades like that.
Okay. Oh,
So
cool. That's something I always wondered.
to stand them up on the side and actually use, the side of an end mill, then you'd need a hollow shaped end mill to get that grind.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're typically, you can't really buy them off the shelf. You have them custom made, and then it starts running to price.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks. I always wanted to know that.
I'm sure a lot of people did.
Yeah. We got to exploit Brian while we have him.
Yeah.
There's so many questions.
Would you have Alfred Lyon make that custom mill if you were to go that route?
Wow.
Could be. With that, you're probably going to go with whoever has the cheapest price.
It would not be him. I thought I could make it more boring, but no, he was unfazed. So go on.
You lost me with that reference.
I assume it's a CNC or mill manufacturer.
There are custom knife makers, and there are custom end mill makers, and there are custom child molesters. There's a little bit of something for everyone out there.
Good God.
Welcome to the pedantic hour.
Well, this is going downhill fast.
Yeah, we should move on.
Anyway, on to the news. So this week, and I guess it's been 2 weeks now, there's been a lot of drama surrounding a certain knife company owner / maker. Dave, do you want to summarize the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, sure. So, said custom knife maker / company owner is Anthony Marfione, if you couldn't guess already. It's been everywhere. And really what this started is because of 3 different lawsuits that he is allegedly involved with. Allegedly. I'm going to use that word a lot. We're going to use that word a lot. So the first one, which I will pat myself on the back a little bit for accidentally finding it, is the one against Tony Scilambrini, the proprietor of Everyday Commentary. He made this really popular post explaining the history of the 077, then the Microtech Matrix, and then the Kershaw Natrix, which they're going to be releasing in the future. So Tony made that post, and he said some certain things allegedly about Marfione's character, or things that he allegedly may have done, and then Kershaw / Kai may have allegedly shared said post, so they are also being sued. So Tony is being sued for defamation, Kai USA is being sued, and their social media manager is also being sued for the same thing, for defamation. And then the third one, which we have the least information about, is that Tony is allegedly suing his eldest son, Anthony G. Marfione, and his daughter-in-law, I believe her name is Jessica, for something we don't know, because nobody's found that one out yet. But allegedly, he's also suing those two.
Those guys own Heretic Knives, right?
Yep, that's correct. That's Anthony Sr.'s, as opposed to his other son, Sean. I
had heard about him, and this alleged lawsuit involving his son and daughter-in-law. It just struck me as some kind of weird tough love thing, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's something else going on there. That's one I don't really want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I don't want to get involved in family drama. I think I can guess what the suit is about, and I assume it has something to do with Heretic Knives designs, but that's as far as I'll go.
Got to protect that intellectual property, right? Even from your own kids. Anyway, we digress. Anyway, we're not getting sued.
Next week we'll be talking about his 4th suit, which will be us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Dave isn't my real name.
So anyway, back to
you didn't tell me we were doing that.
Oh God.
No, Brian will be telling us about his suit against his daughter for annoying him. and her countersuit for sneaking Carolina Reapers into her breakfast.
Only I found that funny.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to bring a lawsuit against Levon and Jake for all these inside jokes that I don't get on Instagram. We're supposed to look like a cohesive force here, and I have no idea what the fuck you guys are doing with the slime.
It's all there. You just have to read between the lines. One day he posted a knife. There was a Carolina Reaper next to the knife.
A Carolina Reaper is the world's hottest pepper. For those of you who aren't in the pepper know.
Yeah.
The Carolina Reaper is the world's hottest pepper.
The pepper
and
podcast.
Jake grew a few of them.
Allegedly
the world's... No, actually, officially. Isn't it official?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there you go. So, I don't know. We were just trying to get Brian to eat one of these, and Brian claims he will actually die if he eats one. So we were questioning his manhood.
Unfortunately, I have a family I got to take care of, and it could literally put me in the hospital. No, I'm serious. Right now, I have like some. You guys got to remember, I'm an old bastard.
God, here we go.
I have a hernia going on now where if I start coughing, it's like I'm gonna throw up and blood, and it's a mess.
Why are you coughing so much?
I don't know.
And everything got
Allergies.
There you go. Allergies. That'll do it. I digress. The pepper thing was cool, but there's a lot of.
I wanted to. My wife basically laid down the law and wouldn't let me do it.
Honestly, Brian, I don't blame you. It's kind of a nightmare, but you do feel like you've accomplished something once you've eaten one. It's kind of strange. But back to the matter at hand. And the biggest controversy with Marfione lies with the treatment of the Kershaw ZT 777. If I can talk about that, the 777 with the herringbone Damascus and that Van X 75 with the carbon fiber handle. When was that? Like, when did they show that at Blade Show? Was that 2012?
Something like that, 2011 maybe.
So it was a long time ago. And to this day, I actually owned one of those. To this day, I think it's one of the most beautiful knives, most beautifully built knives I've ever owned. Jake, you had a lot of time with that knife as well.
Sure. And the other stonewashed and DLC versions, we owned all three of them.
Yeah,
between the two of us.
Yeah. I mean, you owned a cup. You owned a DLC and a stonewashed, right?
Yes, I think I had one of each. Now I remember the DLC, so let's go with that one. Serial number 271, if you're out there.
Yeah, and I can't remember I can't remember the serial numbers of any of them, but at one point I had all three. Only missing the blackwashed one, which was a German exclusive. And I was that douchebag that posted, look, I've got 3 777s in my hand. Look at how cool I am. Yeah, but they were awesome knives. I love them. But my point is that, you know who also makes ridiculously good knives? Tony Marfione. I'm going to put that out there. Like, Marfione custom knives, every one I've had has been flawless. The Annex, I've had 2 Annexes. They're fantastic. Like, really beautifully made pieces of artwork. Jake, do you remember that one with the high polished blade and the meteorite inlays? Mm-hmm. Insanity. I cannot take anything away from this guy as this is the craziest thing to me. It's not like he can't design a knife, right? It's not like he can't make amazing stuff. I feel like he should just let his work speak for itself. Now, besides that, the thing that caused the controversy, the model that caused the controversy was the Matrix, which was literally identical to the 777 in many ways. But the weird part is that too was a freaking awesome knife. So it's not like we got like a crappy ripoff of a 777, Mm-hmm. So that makes this whole thing really crazy to me because you had, obviously 2 approaches to a same design, and I'm not even going to get started on where that design originated or try to take any sides in this, but at the end of the day, you have an incredibly talented designer and maker that I think went a little too far, with that design, and it blew up in his face. That's the way I see most of that.
It blew up for sure because if you check I think it was the Knife News Facebook post, they had like employees dropping some really crazy stuff in the comment section, and they were not distancing themselves. And then allegedly his wife is also posting some like wildly inappropriate things for the owners of businesses to be doing when they're trying to do damage control. So, I mean, it was handled unbelievably poorly. But, like, everybody already knew about this controversy. So it just goes to show that, like everything, it's like a 15-minute news cycle. People were pissed when The Matrix first came out, and then that kind of gradually subsided, and now the lawsuit thing came. So people will be pissed again for a small amount of time, but people's memories are very short when it comes to these things.
Yeah, and knife enthusiasts, I have to say, are pretty fickle as a bunch. I mean,
you're all fucking nuts.
Genuine, yeah, we're definitely. Brian, what do you have to say about things like that?
As someone who's been knocked off, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. This is your time.
I love all my customers. I would say nothing bad about them.
No, not at all. No, but you've had your design. You know, I mean, it wasn't as maybe it's not as malicious.
Oh, by stealing by the design,
Yeah.
then you mean?
Sure.
Yeah, but see, the thing is with that. First off, we don't know what deals were made, who was involved in what when those two got involved with that knife. You know, myself, it sucks. You know, when you see somebody blatantly take your design. You know, like you saw the Chinese copied mine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they even put my name. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, you're kidding me. You know, it's a slap in the face.
One thing I should bring up, Liang Ma was on a Modern Neanderthal podcast, the last episode for them, so like 2 weeks ago. Shout out to them. But he brought up the point that a lot of these Chinese factories are not going out and finding these knives and copying them, that someone is providing them with the design or pictures of the knife or something for them to copy. So that really muddies the waters. So I wonder who is doing that. Like, who's the one ordering these copies?
Someone who works for the company.
Well, they're not really companies. They're like independent shops.
Either way, it's bullshit. Somebody
Yeah.
took the knife and literally it looks almost identical. I could tell right away, but it looks almost. I would bet you could probably almost swap components with mine. That's how close it is. You know.
I'll buy one. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and that's Chinese culture, though. I hate to say it. I mean, their government does it. Their people. That's what they do. They don't give a fuck about anybody's IP.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, to make it less racist.
That wasn't racist. That's.
No, I know it. I understand what you're saying. There is no copyright law in China, so you know everything is up for grabs for the most part.
Everything. Their military does it. You know, I mean, everything they do is just they have no good thoughts of their own. Everything they do, they steal from other people.
Now
They
it's
have a
racist.
fucking billion people. Get your act together and start putting your heads and think. Christ.
Oh my God! I'm sure we got someone just got let out a standing ovation. That was one of our listeners, and everyone else is just like, "Oh my God, what is happening?"
You know how I feel about how I feel about that whole situation.
No, I
You know,
understand.
that's why I won't have a mid-tech made from China. I won't go to China to have parts made. It's bullshit. If I'm going to have something made or I'm going to do something that's going to be in this country with our people, with our money, with everything, it's that's bullshit.
Well, I can't say I don't agree with you, but that brings up a really great point for our next talking topic. We'll get back to Marfione, maybe. I feel like we've said enough. But I want to talk a little bit about what I saw on Massdrop this past week. So we now have, for those of you that don't know, Massdrop is a group buy website that specializes in a bunch of different categories of technology, EDC gear. They now have a separate category for knives specifically, and it's just gotten a lot of traction in the past year or so. And something interesting popped up. It was a product designed by Ferrum Forge, and Dave, do you remember what it was called?
Yeah, it's the Falcon.
Yeah, it was called the Ferrum Forge Falcon, and they're introducing this knife as a Massdrop exclusive. And I'm looking, how the heck is Ferrum Forge doing this? And I'm looking through the stuff, and they're offering it for $124, and my head exploded. And then I realized that Kaiser Knives is actually manufacturing.
It's We Knives that's making it.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's We Knives that is actually making it for them, which actually boggles my mind even further, but I'll digress from that. So what they're doing is an American knife manufacturer is teaming up with a third-party dealer and having a design made overseas and sold through that dealer. I'm curious as to how that deal went down, and what does that do for the products that Ferrum Forge already makes? What does it say about them? Does it cheapen their brand? What things happen because what's going to happen because of all of this is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting move. So they've done group buys with custom makers before, like Jesse Jarrah's, but
Sure.
his own customs.
It's his own stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I certainly think it's an interesting move because Ferrum Forges start at like $500-600, and objectively, the materials you're getting are sometimes a little bit better. You'll get M390, but the blade steel and the titanium handles and stuff is pretty similar to what they put out here. So I don't know. It'll certainly be interesting to see how much of their sales will be cannibalized, or what people are going to expect from them in the future if they can put out a $125 version of one of their knives, whereas they have other 3-inch knives that are $600.
Let me ask you a question, Dave, because I know you own a few knives from this company, or is it one? I'm not sure.
I own 3.
How much is your average Wii knife?
They used to be at MAP pricing, but now they're sort of off of it. They're like $250.
So they're up there, right? So how much markup is in those things if you can sell one of these designs for $124?
Yeah, that's what this really made me think about, because the markup has to be massive if they're still profitable at $125. Although they do have something like 1,100 orders now, because Bro Science Life, which is a really popular YouTube channel, was paid to do a sort of native advertising for Mass Drop for this knife.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the video came out today, and Bro Science has probably 1.5 million, 2 million subscribers, so that's a huge audience they're reaching now. So that's another interesting thing.
So the thing to me is that, I can't say anything about the quality of these knives made overseas. Anything that Wii Knives makes, Kaiser, Riot, all of that stuff is made beautifully. It really is made beautifully. Now, the thing to me was that the benefit of having stuff manufactured overseas was the value to money, category of stuff. And I feel like that's diminishing very slightly now, because, or not slightly, heavily, because now you're hard pressed to find any one of these knives. I was just looking on Blade HQ, Reich knives are, between $350 and $550. There are, Riots going for $550, and I've seen some with some exotic materials close to $1,000. It's where is that line drawn? When is ZT, the zero tolerance, the value proposition in all of this? Now, I have to say, I think Kaiser still makes some great knives for reasonable amounts of money. I think they're one of the only companies that really stuck to the value proposition.
Yeah.
Any of you guys have anything to say about this?
I would just say that model may not have been the original intention, but it's obviously the way that it's going, and that's how capitalism works. Is if there's any room, for anything, it's going to be filled. So I think it's just a product of what this market will allow, and clearly it's allowing it to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's providing people such incredibly high quality knives, comparable to what customs, from years past were like, but now are production knives. And people just want new designs, and the American companies can't come out with them as fast as apparently some of these Chinese companies that are making slightly smaller runs. ZT probably makes 10,000 of each model, whereas Wii Knives or Riot can make 1,000, but put them out much quicker. So that's what the knife community wants right now. They just want a lot of knives all the time.
I guess that's true. Brian, have you ever been approached by sites like Mass Drop or overseas manufacturers for runs of the Typhoon or something like that?
Yeah, just about all of them at this point. I thought about it here and there. I'm not, so much going overseas, but just working with anybody, and it just really never. It just didn't seem profitable enough to take away from my business and dilute what I do. I never really saw the money there to do something like that. This is what I plan on doing for a long time, and I want it to be me. I want to be in
control of your stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's. I mean, not that I wouldn't have any control, even the other way. It just, I don't know. It to me, it just doesn't really make sense yet. Maybe, and I don't claim I'm doing it right. Obviously, there's guys that are doing, much better than I am. I just, I'm trying to learn it as I go, and to me, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our buddies and a fellow maker of yours, Brian, John Gray.
Sasquatch.
So, yeah, I mean, he will respond to that. I feel like I could hear he's in his shop right now working on something, and his ears just went up. He's now, he now knows we're talking about him. John makes some amazing stuff. And just recently, that was my first my first-hand experience with a friend who had, knives produced overseas. So he had teamed up with Kaiser, and they built a model of his slut called the SLT, and a model of his stuck, which they called the Gray's Pocket Brute. So it's GPB1. And I was amazed at them. Honestly, I don't think John could put something together with that level of precision. John doesn't use a lot of machines. He has some parts machined for him, but most of his stuff is done by hand. And Brian, your stuff, is so, I wouldn't see the point for something that you make being made by.
Yeah, it's somebody who makes something by hand. I can maybe see the appeal to it. But you're going to be using machinery the same way I am. It's just somebody else making the design. It doesn't make sense for me at this point.
That makes sense, and which is interesting because I feel like Ferrum Forge has a similar business, or at least produces knives similarly to the way you do.
Right.
That's the thing that made this sort of a unique comparison.
We'll see. If they do real well, I'll apologize to the billion Chinamen I insulted, and then we'll see if we can get something going.
Hey, it's a possibility.
Maybe I'll pick up one of those Ferrum Forge knives, and we'll see how.
I think it's worth someone getting one. Just check them out. I have three Wii knives, but I have one budget one and two of the normal line, and I've been happy with all of them. But yeah,
I owned a Ferrum Forge, and a real Ferrum Forge, and you actually bought it from me.
Yeah, I owned it. I was gonna say I owned the same one as well.
Do you still have it?
No, I sold it to some guy in the Netherlands, I believe.
I see how it is.
No, it's just I liked it, but nothing about it felt like it was $600 to me. It has flat scales. I'm trying to think if they've done 3D, contoured titanium scales on any of their knives, and it doesn't really come to mind, but I haven't memorized their lineup. But, it didn't feel like a $600 knife to me.
Well, let it be known that I did not sell it to you for $600.
No, and I would not have paid more than I bought it off of you from.
Well, there you go.
So that's kind of the problem.
You know what was weird about that knife? I'm not a big fan to talk about this flipper doesn't have enough jimping on it, and
no, but you're right.
That it would just slide. My finger would just slide off that thing, and it would actually hurt.
Yes, it was very painful, and it has a really strong detent and a tiny flipper that was very painful to use.
And a very tiny pivot. I feel like the pivot was really tiny.
Oh, it's so little. I don't know. It's like a needle dick. I don't get it. Why? Why do they have these extraordinarily thin pivots?
Other than those criticisms, though, it was a nice.
It was a very nice execution of the Hoback rolling detent, which previously had never really impressed me.
It's like breaking off a pen in the detent slot.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know what I'm talking about? You cut the tip off like a.
Yeah, it looks like a rollerball pen.
And you shove it into the lock bar, and behold the rolling detent.
It's a rollerball pen. Yeah, someone broke off in the
idea behind it is cool.
Yeah.
I actually came up with something that's similar, but I just think a lot thinner profile. The thing I don't like about his design is you need such a thick frame for it to really work right, or that you have the screw sticking up in the middle of the frame there.
Jake, you did a little proof of concept once, didn't you? Didn't you build a prototype?
Yeah, a couple actually. I for my proof of concept, I used a rolling detent. I contacted Jake Hoback first, and he was very nice to work with and very open about giving me his source. So as it turned out, at least back then, so we're going back 3 years now, I want to say.
Oh, at least.
That part was just a generic machine part. So it wasn't knife specific. It wasn't manufactured for him by a machine shop or anything like that. It was, just go to this, big, parts store, a hardware store, basically online, and order them in whatever size and color variety that you need. So I ordered, 5 or 10 in different sizes, found them to be, like Brian was just saying, most of them are so big. The scale is just different than your average average size knife. So you either need really thick scales or something to that effect. But
Did you have to take the ink wells out of the pens before you?
You just drain the ink.
No,
and they're ready to use.
That's brilliant, Levon, because then it's self-lubricating because the ink just rolls out onto the detent ball, and then you never have to lube it.
Patent pending, everyone.
Oh shit!
So the highlight of that was for me was I ended up not even using that on my because my design turned into more of a liner lock than a frame lock. But I did install one into a Strider SMF, and it worked out very nicely. So I found, the sixth or eighth one that I had ordered in different part numbers. I was able to grind down small enough and then just slot it and turn it into something that would fit, and it did work nicely, and it had a real nice snap to it. It sounded different and felt different than an SMF. So I think for no other reason it was useful in that application, just because it was different.
To give you guys some background on this, Jake and I we've been good friends for a very long time, and a lot of we have some free time we spend together. Sometimes we do a thing called Whiskey Pickle Knife. If you guys have seen that hashtag, this is what that means. So back in 2012, we actually, when we started getting, I guess it was 2012, maybe 2011, started getting into knives. I was still fabricating at the time. I think that might be an important important bit of detail information. I still had the shop when we started doing this. Oh, right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
So I had a small machine shop and et cetera at my disposal, and I'd been fabricating for many years. So when that ended was actually kind of when Whiskey Pickle Knife started, and I think it was my natural outlet, obviously. So sorry to interrupt. Continue.
But the whiskey part is just our love of Jameson and pickle juice. So in case you guys if you guys want to do an amazing shot, it's called a pickleback. You do a shot of Jameson followed by a shot of kosher dill pickle juice, and it is amazing. It's so good. I'm telling you. If you haven't tried that, so you've had it, Dave. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's incredible, and it got to a point where I love the combo so much. It's like, skip the shots. Just give me like the bottle of Jameson and the jar of pickles, and I'll sip from one and eat from the other.
Why don't you marinate the pickles in the Jameson and just eat the pickles?
You could do that. I mean, I'm sure that happened more than once.
Either way, it's got to give you the shits the next day.
The Jameson does have a bit of a wrath. Although it's not really news for me. Lately, everything has irritated my stomach. So, too much Jameson will do that to you. But either way, we ended up, messing with knives, modifying stuff, and that was kind of like, it was crazy. Like, I mean, we had something called a chinderer, which was like
nuts. What'd you call them?
A chinderer. It was a fake hinderer, and it was Jake beat the living hell out of that. We would, take titanium scales off of like a Spyderco and then hit it with a torch, and that's how you learn how stuff worked. It was an interesting time, but that's how the Whiskey Pickle Knife thing started, and that's what a lot of people have been asking me recently. So it's time to get that addressed.
Yeah, there was a brief period where it accidentally took a more serious route, and people were sending knives for modification. And as smart as it would have been to approach that differently, it was just it was driven so much more by fun than anything else. We never changed the name or explained the name or anything. It was really just a goof, and still is to this day. Although occasionally we're dealing with makers and doing things that are a little bit more productive.
It's never that productive. Let's be honest with ourselves. I feel like we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for any of that, though. I really have to say that.
Of course.
Oh yeah. So, Dave, anything else on the agenda as far as news?
I had some other things, but if we want to move on to the main topic, we could do that. But I had some other brief things.
Go for it.
Us.
Okay, so I kind of picked these two stories because I think they show the power of influencers. I hate that term, but I'm not sure there's a better one in the knife community because whether we like it or not, the knife community is actually really small, and the knife industry in general is pretty small, even though occasionally when it suits people, they like to act like it's huge. It really isn't. So the first story is that Spyderco changed its warranty policies about disassembling knives. They had some really unclear language previously about whether you could disassemble your knife, or whether disassembling it voided the warranty, or whether if you damaged it during disassembly, it voided the warranty. So no one knew, and that was a big problem for years. And then they started doing red Loctite, which not a great idea, and a lot of people were damaging their knives. Everyone was pissed. Apostle P made a big video about it, and
oh god,
yeah, let's not get into that.
Sorry.
No, that's my reaction too. And Nick Shabazz also made a video about this.
Oh, this is Nick Shabazz here for your PM2.
Yeah, we're gonna have you do an entire episode in that voice.
Absolutely.
But so
your PM2.
Very coincidentally, you might say, Spyderco changed its warranty policy, and the Spyderco fanboys want to say it's totally unrelated, and that like no one person is big enough to have that kind of influence. But like, what a coincidence then that it happened right after they made those videos. So whether we like it or not, one or two people can cause huge shifts in the knife industry. And then the other story that's the counter to this, where it's possibly not going to go well, is there's this YouTube channel for this Australian guy. I think his name is Cedric Ada, and he has some videos where he does some J. Davis-esque cut tests on rope with ZTs, with some ZTs, with the S35VN, and he's claiming that the heat treat is terrible and that they lose edges super quickly. And I'm just having like PTSD flashbacks to when J. Davis did this with the LMAX, and now literally every time you Google LMAX and zero tolerance, the first result will always be something about their heat treat wasn't right, and I don't think that was really ever objectively proven. Like, they offered to take the knives back from him and send them out for testing. Same thing with Chris Reeve, and then he stole a bunch of people's money and disappeared before they could ever be tested. So
This is the same guy that Chris Reeve had a fracas with.
Correct. Yeah, but anyway, it's just showing that one person, if they have the platform that enables them, can do very good or very bad things for the knife community, and I think it is a little ridiculous for us to pretend like that does not happen and that we're bigger than the fact that one person can really change things.
So that brings up a great point. So then, looking back at the whole Marfione thing, we don't know the whole story, right? Maybe there's some justification, and maybe this small community news travels fast.
I wouldn't say that. He released a press release that was incredibly damaging about.
Allegedly.
No, he released the press release, so we actually don't have to say allegedly, because it was released from Marfione. Okay, allegedly he released a press release in which he alleges that someone from Kershaw or Kai insulted him at Blade and claimed they were going to make an OTF that was going to put him out of business, and then to show them, he allegedly made the Matrix before they could get the 077 out. You can read this press release. It's on Knife News. It was issued by Microtech.
I remember that.
Yeah so I wouldn't say we don't know exactly what's going on there, just because that was his side. Allegedly.
Shut up.
Allegedly. I'm done.
All right, good. Oh my God, we're not going to make it to episode 3. Although we were lucky to get to episode 2. Thank you, everyone. Just a big thanks.
If someone has an allegedly count, put it out there.
You're gonna.
You got to drink every time you hear us say that.
A pickleback shot every single time.
And then you too can be a part of Whiskey Pickle Knife.
Oh my God, the game.
That's how we monetize. We release the Whiskey Pickle Knife game.
Can we put that in the? We can put that in description, right? The rules to the Whiskey Pickle Knife game.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, very good idea.
Excellent. Those of you who listen at work, too bad. Or, maybe you run your own business like Brian, and you can partake in certain things.
Yes, we are encouraging you to operate heavy machinery while under the influence of substances. You heard it first.
Oh God, no, this isn't going to last.
No, we should probably transition to the main topic.
So the main topic we've already touched on a little bit, and that's a question that a lot of us get in our everyday lives, and it's this is gonna rhyme, but it's why knives? Everyday lives, why knives?
Well done.
Edit. Is there an edit button on this thing?
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, fix it in post. That's great.
In broadcasting, there are buttons all over the studio where if someone curses by accident, anyone has the power to jump in and and delete that from the broadcast.
Interesting.
I think I think our audience needs that sometimes when we pontificate.
Maybe if
Continue.
we do a live version of this at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, the question that we normally get, and Jake, we talk about this all the time. It's why knives? It's like, why do you end up loving them? Why do you end up hating them? Why do you end up thinking about them?
Why do you post them on your personal Instagram alongside all of the pictures of your children and your grandparents meeting their grandchildren for the first time?
Yeah, so I'm single, so I had to make a personal Instagram account because I feel like potential suitors do not want to see a bunch of fucking knives. So I had to make a second Instagram for that exact reason.
It's funny. I used to think that way, and then I said to myself, you know, if some girl if she's not into knives, it's not worth my time.
No, you have to ease it into her, like the knife when you stab her to death with it.
Whoa there.
Yeah, that might scare him.
God, this is already getting terrible. Anyway, but why knives? Like, Jake, why don't you tell us what got you into knives first? Because you got me into them. So.
Yeah, this is and for me, it's been especially tough because I've had to answer this question so many times because of the way that my collecting sort of picked up out of nowhere, and well, maybe out of nowhere is the wrong term, but it picked up slowly in such a way that people who I hadn't spoken to in a little while, when I saw them in person, would be like, what is going on with the knives? And I've had to answer this question so many times. I should have some kind of answer, and I'm absolutely embarrassed to say that I have. It's a different answer every time. It depends on who's asking, I guess. I always try to find something to relate it to, and I always find myself ending with the term functional art, which I said I think probably in the first episode. And so if it's a girl, I say, how many pairs of shoes do you have? How many purses do you have? How many different shades of red do you have in makeup or whatever? And it's really no different. Although I don't believe that entirely, that it's no different, but I just try to find something that the person can relate to and slide it right in there under the radar. But to answer your question specifically, I had used knives for just like any normal person with a little bit of an outdoor tendency, or someone that works with their hands or whatever. I'd always used knives that left me so sad when they were dull, and I didn't know how to sharpen knives. And one time I ended up with a knife that didn't lose its edge, and I used it for another month and it didn't lose its edge, and I used it for another month, and so it was my first American made knife. Turns out it was a Kershaw Needs Work with Sandvik steel, and the fact that it didn't lose its edge made me just interested to find out why, what property of metallurgy and of the hardening process and the geometry, made it so that it actually worked instead of like every other, razor blade or pocket knife I'd ever had that just got dull instantly and was completely useless. And just, something like a kid, I don't know. Finding out that there's this complicated process, on the molecular level that makes steel behave a certain way and different ratios of different ingredients, and then, certain critical temperatures and tempering, all that stuff combined with then the maker has to manipulate it in such a way that the shape works for, cutting, the geometry works for cutting, and the mechanics of the folding knife, it's sturdy when open. All those things hit me like a ton of bricks. I just had never considered before. So I became a collector. I went from no interest to collector in about 30 seconds.
I mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I remember when you always dabbled in them, and I always liked knives. I always enjoyed them, but never really saw them as more than a convenient tool to have on you, like pocket knives in general.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you gave me that Benchmade mini grip, like probably in 2010. And I carried that for years, and I loved it. Before that, I had like the spring-assisted buck knife, and I carried that all the time. But for me, Jake and I have always shared hobbies to a certain extent. But I was very much into watches, So I love watches. I love technology. I love things that require, that are highly detailed, mechanical. I love cars. It all ties into that sort of thing. And the idea of having, in my everyday life, I work for a technology company, and I see, these, smartphones, computers, tablets, and the ways that they interact with people's lives and get on a very finite level and have things work for them. For me to get out of that and get into something that is technically simple and, something like as simple as a knife could be, and take it and watch it, follow it through its infinite possibilities has really been fascinating for me. I'm also a designer by trade. So seeing that kind of stuff from an aesthetic point of view, just, it tickles me. Yeah, I just love knives. I love everything about the world of knives at this point.
I cannot forget to give credit to a certain Ukrainian-born friend who started many years ago, started the tradition that men give men knives as gifts. It's not something I had known about before, but it was sometime back in like the early 2000s. He taught me that men give men knives. If you're going to give men a gift, you give them a knife.
Yeah.
And that was probably where that was the true genesis, I guess, because then I had all these knives, even though I hadn't, that the spark hadn't ignited in my, in my whatever knife collecting bone. So anyway, but I had to give credit where credit was due, because Victor is the true genesis for both of us then, because, if I got you into it, then
his ear hit just like John Gray's, Victor's ears now. He just stood up. He was probably yelling at his teenager, and he just had to stop mid lecture.
Yeah, I gave out so many now discontinued Kershaws that I wish I had to friends in 2012-ish. Like a Kershaw Ram, I gave that to one of my friends, and I regret it so much.
Oh, that's a cool knife, too.
Yeah, that's the only knife I've ever regretted getting rid of.
I used to buy $5 Chinese knives in by the dozen and give those away as like party favors.
I did that with Kershaw Injection 3.0s. They were $10 at a local knife store, and I just bought a bunch of those for my friends to varying degrees of appreciation.
I mean, to Jake's point and yours, it is a really fun gift to give, because it's something that a lot of people who aren't in the hobby, speaking of that, like everyone I work with, you'd think that, people in technology would be a little bit weary about the knife thing. And I guess it's because they've known me, because I've worked for the same company now for almost 9 years. They've known me already through a lot of stuff. And if I'm into it, they kind of try and see the benefit of it. And now everyone is just really excited. I just went back to work after a serious ankle injury, and everyone's telling me, it's like, oh, have you watched Forged in Fire? You love knives, right? And it's like people I haven't talked to in a very long time, and everybody's really curious. I'm getting like a different vibe. I think it's just getting out there now, and people are enjoying, the handmade, the handcrafted, the high-end stuff is very in right now. And I think the knives are riding on that wave, because if these folks are talking about it and are interested in it, I mean, maybe we're on the cusp of something here.
Yeah. Also, if you say you have a podcast about them, people get a lot more receptive about, this sort of weird hobby.
I guess now that we have two episodes, at least this one is being made. Hopefully everything's recording.
Oh shit! That mess.
People like their knives the way they like their cheeses. Artisanal.
Damn, that was eloquent.
I thought you were gonna say stinky.
Yeah, I didn't know where you were going with that.
Old and stinky.
No, that was our old excuse when people asked us, so why knives? And we just said we collect all kinds of artisanal stuff, handmade paintings, handmade knives, and usually there's an inappropriate thing.
That is a very socially acceptable explanation for liking knives.
Yeah, it's artisanal. Yeah,
and they get it too, which is funny, because the knife hobby always gets piled in with the gun hobby.
Yeah,
but they're very different avenues. I mean, sure, there's bleed over, and I like guns. And like I know at least two of you guys do, but it's not a prerequisite for liking knives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in the words of J-Rock from Trailer Park Boys, I don't play guns. But no, I've just never been super interested in guns. Like, they're all right, but yeah, knives for me are completely separate. But yeah, there is a lot of assumptions about the two hobbies being connected.
I have to tell you, I get a lot more use out of all of my knives, even this high polished Wayfarer, than I do out of my 1911.
Yeah, this is exactly why I don't own a gun, because I enjoy knives for that reason, that you can actually carry them with you and do something with them.
Right. No, I get that. Brian, I mean,
do you live in a free country, Dave? I forget.
I generally like to restrict myself to the least free parts of the country, aka New England. So, no, Connecticut has surprisingly good knife carrying laws. Rhode Island, where I'm from, not so much.
Interesting.
But guns
Brian.
now, yeah, no guns here.
I want to ask Brian where he falls into all of this, because I know he's not a knife. You're not a knife collector, you know. You there had to be something that sparked the interest in it. And I know you told us last week about how you saw, a bill for hand forging stuff, your neighbor and your buddy.
Yeah, it's not that I was never into knives. First off, I didn't even know there was a custom knife market. I didn't know people made custom knives. The only knives I ever saw was, whatever you can get at the local, fishing gun store, whatever they had there. That's all I knew about. Most of that is, Benchmade shit. So, it's not that I wasn't. I just never knew it was there until 4 years ago. Yeah.
And what made you decide that was the thing you wanted to do?
Getting shit canned from my job and having nothing else to do.
Well, I thought maybe you'd have some deeper explanation of this, but
if you're looking for deep for me,
use the term artisanal.
Yeah, do it.
Sneak it in there somehow.
No, truthfully, no. I mean, I always had an interest there. When I was a kid, I used to sneak knives from my parents. They didn't want me having knives, so my grandfather would give me a Swiss Army knife until I would cut myself with it, and then my parents would take it away, and then I would get something else. And I always had crap like that, but I just never really dove into it. I was just caught up with other stuff in life.
I too had my first knife accident when I was a kid with a Swiss Army knife. It's kind of funny.
Stabbing it into a tree?
I think mine was real. It was even dumber than that. I was really young, and I couldn't get the stupid thing open. And I mean, I must have been like 10 or 11. And I went and tried to open how like when you first get a Swiss Army knife, the tension is really strong.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
And I went and just tried to loosen it up with my teeth.
Oh,
that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was real. So get this: the thing closes on my bottom lip.
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah. I was not happy. I'm sure I shed some tears. But surprisingly, it didn't do any damage to my lip. I think there was a small cut, but nothing.
That's why you have the beard mustache, I bet.
Yeah, that's it. It's like tinted windows from my face. Can't see anything, That's usually a funny thing. People laugh when I say my beard is tinted windows from my face.
I thought
Thanks,
for sure
guys.
You were telling the truth.
All right, Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
Anyway,
I was on mute. I was laughing.
Good excuse, Jake.
I wasn't really on mute.
That's actually funny that you bring up stuff involving childhood with knives, because it literally couldn't be any farther from my experience with knives. My parents aren't outdoorsy. I'm not outdoorsy. I hate camping.
I never said my parents were outdoorsy.
Or I didn't have grandparents that were outdoorsy.
Let me preface this.
I didn't have grandparents that were outdoorsy or anything.
Sure.
They were too busy. Well, I guess they were outdoorsy because they were buried under the ground because they were dead. But so I mean, they were outdoorsy in a sense. But like my dad's a Jew from Brooklyn, my mom is an Italian immigrant from Brooklyn, so not exactly the kind of people who really pass down knives to their kids. But I think for me, what started it was in elementary school. My sister recommended me these series of children's books about these anthropomorphized rodents that it was sort of medieval times. It's called Redwall. Some other 90s babies might be familiar with the Redwall book
I'm
series.
going to Google this right now.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Jakes, the author. He died. But basically, they were like...
What is with all the death in you today?
Well,
Anyway,
it's a morbid day for me.
Wait. I'm still can't get over the '90s babies.
Yeah. I was born in 91.
You're old, boy.
Holy fuck! I was already out of high school.
Yeah. We got a nice age span here. So
Holy shit.
yeah, so those books, like, you know, there was swords and shit, and I just really wanted a sword in elementary school. And that's just kind of what started it. But the first knife I got was in middle school. My next door neighbors had gone to... I went with them to this place in New Hampshire. It was some boardwalk, and I got this super shitty M-Tech knife that I think I still have somewhere broken in my parents' like backyard. And that I just loved that thing. And then there was many years of a gap until high school where I bought another M-Tech. It was a DDR Mad Max ripoff. At the time, I had no idea, and it got confiscated by the police when I was trespassing with some of my friends and almost got arrested. So that was a fun story. And then what really started like on the actual path to knives, my freshman year of college, my roommate found a CRKT M16 on the ground on campus, and I traded a pair of sunglasses for it, and I was just hooked after that.
You traded an M16 for a pair of sunglasses?
For a pair of like $8 sunglasses, correct.
You could look all goth and metal at the same time?
He had no use for the knife, so I traded him the sunglasses, I got the knife.
Nice.
And and then from there I joined Blade forums, and I fuck with the internet quite a bit, so having a forum to read that's when it ended. I just went nuts after that. Every dollar I got I spent on knives. My parents had me house sit for them once in college, and they gave me like $80 for food. I immediately spent it all on a Kershaw leak in Damascus, and that explains
all of it, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Don't spend it all in one place, son.
I did. And then I don't know what I ate for that like week, but I was really happy with that Kershaw leak. And, you know, that's where it's been from there. And now I'm just helplessly obsessed. Check the forums every day. Check every retailer like every day.
I have to say I echo the idea of not having very outdoorsy parents or grandparents for that matter. I have to say I think it must have been like like any kid, early 90s growing up, I was probably into...
Oh, my God.
Dude, listen, I was born in 84. I'm 33 years old. So I say that I'm only 49% millennial. Anyway, but it started with love of superheroes and things like that. The X-Men comics were really big. They started getting huge in the early 90s. And like Wolverine was a had claws and had a sword, and I thought that was freaking cool.
Yep. It was just swords that made me. And then I got a sword finally, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? And then sold it immediately.
I still have a couple like decorative swords somewhere. Nothing like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen on YouTube. Do you get Jake? You know what I'm about to bring up, right?
I do.
Oh my God, the Fat Swordsman on YouTube.
He's the best.
Oh my God.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I've probably sent you links, Brian. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It is this dude who is, I don't know, he weighs several hundreds of pounds, and he throws around these costume cosplay swords and cuts bottles in like his backyard in New Jersey, and it drives me insane with laughter.
Why'd you have to go the New Jersey route?
Well, that's where he's from.
Yeah, it's Brian.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, Brian's
alter ego.
He's actually 500 pounds.
This is why it's a podcast, not a video chat.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God! If you guys have not seen it, what is his name? What's his
Will
YouTube?
Keith.
Yeah, his name is Will Keith. But what's his? We'll put the link in.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll put it in the show notes.
Oh my God! Just go through. He's been doing it for many years, and it's just absolutely hysterical. Oh my God!
Yeah,
he's like the antithesis of everything we like about knives. It is perfect.
Frequently, there's a disclaimer like the knife that I'm reviewing today, or the sword I'm reviewing today. Sorry, let me do that one more time. The sword I'm reviewing today.
Yeah, he calls it the sword. He has a speech impediment.
He has his own Daniel. He was on Daniel Tosh, Web Redemption, and Tosh asked him where his accent came from, and he said, "It's mine. I made it up." Anyway, so frequently he'll have to say, the sword that I'm reviewing today it might come apart. It's so cheaply made. It's so dangerous that it might come apart. So I can't have a cameraman today because I didn't want him to get sliced in half by this total piece of crap.
He wrapped it in hockey tape. He didn't trust the pommel.
It's always funny, and it's definitely worth looking at.
God,
I
wish we could get him on the podcast.
Yeah, we can
He's
definitely
not far
get
away.
him.
He is not far away.
I would lose my shit.
We can
Ryan,
100% get him.
I'm going to kick you off the show, and we're going to get Will Keith in your stead.
Yeah, because there's only one New Jerseyan at a time.
I'm good with that. I'm all right with that.
Guys, we have so much cachet. We're one episode in.
Yeah, that's true.
We're riding high.
Oh my gosh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about with this, because I did not have nearly as eloquent an answer as you, Levon or Jake, was that knives, for me, justifying why I like knives is very similar to justifying why I like metal, and I think we have at least 3 metalheads here. Because it is something
Brian's definitely a metalhead too.
Oh, good. All of us.
Yeah.
Great. So, yeah.
I was around when it first started, though.
That's a good point.
Back in my day, metal was just a material.
Yeah, I was 3 years old when Slaughter the Soul came out. So, but anyway, yeah, it's another thing where it's sort of unpopular. It's a niche interest, and I struggle with that. But I find that knives, like metal, I just when I first heard, I don't know what was this? I don't even know what got me into metal. Progenies of the Great Apocalypse by Dimmu Borgir.
God, you're young.
Yeah, 2001. I just heard that and I was like, yes, this is it. And that's kind of the same thing with knives. It's just like I hold it and I'm just like, I enjoy this.
They both make me want to stab something.
There we go.
That's exactly the kind of stigma we're trying not to imply with knives.
Yeah, well, too
Brian
late,
Nadeau.
because the biggest exposure to knives ever, aka that mass drop advertisement on the Bro Science video, is all about like stabbing people. So we're fucked.
Is it?
Mass drop just shot themselves in the foot with that.
I was speaking of metal. I was listening to to Carcass yesterday, one of my favorite death metal bands of all time.
I've been listening to Heartwork a lot lately.
Okay, so I was listening to their 2013 comeback album, Surgical Steel.
Yep, great.
So the name is just pulled at my heartstrings, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a song on there, and they have like a horror theme to most of their music. And the track 6 is called "Non-Compliance to the ASTM F89912 Standard," which is, and they also have a song on here called 316L Grade Surgical Steel. Yep. So I was just like, oh, that's so nice. I take a different meaning to all of that than I normally would. This should be cut out. This should just not be in this podcast.
Hey, I think it colors our worldview, which is what this is about.
I was listening. Yeah, and I was listening to it on the way home yesterday. It's like, oh wow, that's kind of knifey.
The two have always been related. You know,
that's true.
Power metal guys have been posing with swords for like 30 years now. So,
hence our first cover for the episode the last time was an Immortal album cover.
Are you really going to do that every time?
I really want to, yeah, but you got to take a damn picture of yourself, and I mean your face.
Yeah. Oh.
We've already seen the rest of it in the YouTube videos of you cutting things with your swords.
Surds.
Surds.
Yeah, so just everybody. So the idea is that I would like to do an album cover Photoshop, a metal album cover Photoshop for each of these episodes. So yeah, get me your pictures. And if anyone out there has any suggestions for album covers, email them to knifenutspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll see if I can get the 4 of us photoshopped into all of those, and then you guys will get a shout out or something in the description.
I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. So what else we got?
We could, if you want to get into the wingding of the week, if we want to transition out of the main topic.
Go for it. I don't think anyone but you or I knows what the wingding of the week is.
Right.
So it'll be news to these guys too.
Sure. So it's a little segment I like to introduce called Wingding of the Week, where I identify something I find particularly reprehensible in the knife community each episode. And today we're going to be talking about custom knife maker Chris Williams, and he's going to be Wingding of the Week. So I should mention that this is not the Wilmot Grinders Chris Williams. He's great, so no relation. So Chris Williams is a knife maker from, I believe, Johns Island, South Carolina. And he got kind of prominent locally as a custom knife maker who made fixed blades, like nice sort of ornate fixed blades and kitchen knives. He got famous locally. They wrote an article about him. And he was most known for this oyster knife that he made. And for non-East Coast people, oyster knives are like daggers. They actually look very weapony, but they're like short, stubby, chode daggers. So he got real popular in South Carolina because he got like a few local like business journal articles about him. And eventually someone pointed this out on Blade forums, and it was figured out almost immediately that they were blanks. He was taking pre-cut blanks that were pre-ground and just putting handles on them. And the Blade forums thread is incredible because he joins in and he starts threatening people with lawsuits, and it just turned into a complete shit show. So he disappeared for a while, and now he has this very fancy, very well-made website that is exactly what you would expect from someone like this. And his latest venture is rebranding Gonzo knives. So these are $15 Chinese knives. That's a stolen design from Mike Snowdy. I think it was the HK 14205. And he's selling them for $150.
Oh my god.
Yep.
What a dingus.
It's incredible. Like people
What a wingding.
People are going to spot this shit like immediately. I don't know how you could. I don't know. This man lives in his own planet.
You say that, but I'm sure someone is spending $150 on this shit.
Right. He's not selling to anybody in the knife world. He's selling to all his customers are outside of the knife realm. They don't know anybody or that they're going to talk to about this. You know,
that's a good point.
Jared West.
No, Jared West only sells to the most elite of operators.
Yes.
That's why they have recently declassified security systems at their Texas factory.
Oh my god! So wait, what? Doesn't this guy have an Instagram too?
Yeah,
Not
he
Jared
does.
West, talking about.
It's Chris Williams Co. I think is his Instagram. You can find him on Instagram. He'll ban you if you say anything. But you can see
all
him
the best. All the best ones always do.
Yes.
So basically, you could go on there and say something to him, and you'll get blocked immediately.
Yes. Correct.
Let's try and see how many people we can get blocked from his Instagram.
So usually I don't like these crusade things, but this one is so obvious and so
fun.
Egregious that, like, come on.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. So at first I was like, "Is this the same guy?" I couldn't tell if we were talking about the same guy. So he was buying pre-ground blanks. So it was a knife when he got it, and just throwing a handle on it.
Yeah, and selling them for like $800.
And then he graduated to just rebranding a Chinese knockoff.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, he got real lucky because the Axis lock is no longer under patent, so you can use the Axis lock.
And you may argue that the Ganzo knife has really made it when an American knife maker knocks off the design.
Oh my god.
And execution. And just
it was a knockoff of a knockoff.
It's a knockoff of a knockoff.
It's a knockoff inception.
Back in the States with an American name, whatever,
guys,
placed on it.
We've reached the knife singularity.
We have come full circle. Wow. Don't ever say that this podcast hasn't brought you the real nitty-gritty of the knife community.
Guys, I have a great idea. I'm going to post an Instagram advertisement of this show using the blade from the knife that I said got me into collecting knives.
Oh, that's a nice touch.
Oh, isn't that a nice touch? I just happen to have one here in pieces.
In pieces?
Yeah. Oh, and I cut myself. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Lev, what happened with your buddy? With that he lost 10,000 followers, and I hate to even mention his name, but did you see that deal that I sent you?
This is how not a buddy. I didn't even realize who the hell you were talking about at first until you said 10,000.
Yeah, I have no idea who this is.
So Jim Skelton posted a thing on Instagram today.
Ooh, yeah. So I wasn't sure if we were going to get into this.
Oh,
we don't have to. I don't
have a problem. I don't have a problem with him at all. And he posts a lot of crazy shit, but something about losing 10,000 followers overnight on YouTube.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. Don't ever take the moral high ground, ever. It's just so much easier. Just don't ever take the moral high ground, because you're going to end up with your foot so far in your mouth, it's coming out of your ass. And that is exactly what happened here. He came down, the guy has the transcripts of all of it, so it's not even really allegedly here, and it's all on video on YouTube. There's this channel, some, guy in his 60s. He made some videos about clone knives, like clone microtechs and stuff, Obviously not something people necessarily want to explicitly support, but it's YouTube. You can post whatever the fuck you want. And he basically threatened them, saying, like, if you don't take these videos down within 2 weeks, I'm going to squash your channel. And things that will get your YouTube account pulled, which is why it was really dumb on Jim's part. And I did not know about the 10,000 subscriber loss, but I guess I'm not surprised.
So, rewind. I'm still kind of lost. So there's a guy on YouTube that's not Jim Skelton.
Yeah, his name is Love Them Knives, LUV.
Jim was trying to play internet police, and
Correct.
he's taking in a rumpus for it.
Yeah, this is why you don't take the moral high ground.
In the rumpus. Anyway, that's interesting. So, I can actually agree with that. I'm not a big fan of the clone knives and things like that, but I agree, that you can put whatever the hell you want on YouTube. Just ignore it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, because this is a problem. Some guy apparently 2,000 years ago said something about he who was without sin, let him cast the first stone or whatever. I don't know my Bible, so I'm a Jew.
And the first Bible verse
yeah.
comes from the only Jewish member of this podcast.
So that phrase has been around for like 2,000 years, and nobody has learned a fucking thing from it, because anytime you try and call people out for this shit, you're always going to be found out to be a hypocrite. Like, obviously Jim Skelton supports Anthony Marfione, and then you can make comments about alleged knife theft there. So, like, it's just don't be the internet police is what it comes down to.
So, if there was no internet police, then you would be out of this podcast entirely.
Yes,
Dave.
Probably.
I see. And on that note, is this a good time to close things? Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? I'll take the silence as a no.
We're just ignoring you.
So I would like to talk about.
I'm not. I wasn't ignoring. I'm writing a description for my Instagram post promoting our podcast.
Well, that's just lovely.
So I'm checked out for a moment.
You continue to do that, and I'm going to talk about knifenuts.net. So we're actually launching our own website with bios for all of us, some links to some news stuff that we've been talking about on the podcast. The podcast itself will be hosted through there, so we won't have to use SoundCloud or anything like that going forward. Awesome. Soon, that will have an official launch shortly. I mean, in my world, there's not really much of a point to have a website anymore, but I feel like this is a nice, ground zero for everything that we're doing.
There really is, because we need a place for merch, because I know someone who can make us T-shirts in the comfort of my own home.
Oh, yeah, we're monetizing big time.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. I know the decals will be out shortly.
Yes, decals, shirts,
bobbleheads.
Yes, bobbleheads, definitely.
And yet,
waterproof decals
none
for
of
your
you
adult
bastards will
toys.
be at Blade.
Oh yeah,
Yet.
there's
And
that.
yet.
I already explained to you. I've been out of work for a year. There's no way I'm getting the time off. I'm going to be able to get the time off to go to Blade.
Yeah, I make like
$0
a year, so count me out.
He spent it all on that
right.
Damascus leak.
I did. No, but speaking of knife shows, we'll have a man in the field next Saturday at the New England Cutlery Collectors Association knife meeting, or knife show. It's a very small knife show in New England, so if anyone's around, I'll be there. You can probably figure out who I am pretty easily. But yeah, it's in Mystic, Connecticut, or in Groton, Connecticut, and it is next Saturday and Sunday, so I encourage people to go. It's a very small show. It's kind of like a AARP convention. A bunch of old dudes with even older knives just sitting around, but you can handle some pretty cool customs.
Remember that Randall I used to have.
Yeah, that's very much what it's like. It's like look at this slip joint from 1917.
I cut my lip off with this one.
Yeah, but Paul Farina, who is like a big-time knife dealer, he is usually there with some ridiculously expensive customs, so you can see some kind of cool shit. Like full custom Todd bags. I got to handle one. Jerry McGinnis and stuff, A Tim Gallion custom. That thing was dope.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. But, so I encourage people to go if they're in the New England area. It's a fun time.
And Brian, of course, you'll be at Blade.
Yes.
So you will be the sole representative of the Knife Nuts podcast at Blade Show. Congratulations.
Yep, I guess so. I'll have to be beating people away with a stick.
Maybe you'll get to have a fracas with someone.
Yes. I'll go
God,
as a
I hope not.
I'll go
really
as a
don't need
plant.
that.
Your Jay Davis is only a few weeks away.
Yep.
Please
On
don't
that
tell me
note, on that note, everyone, thank you so much for enjoying the last podcast that we posted. I can't thank you guys enough for the feedback and all the kind words that you guys have been giving us. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you very much. You can contact us. My name on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else is Metal Levon. Dave, you have your YouTube channel, and
I ain't got shit. I'm not finna catch a case here, so you can't find me anywhere, and Dave's not my real name.
he is underscore misanthropia on Instagram. Jake, you're Whiskey Pickle Jake on Instagram and other. I think you're the same on Blade forums and stuff like that. And of course, we have Brian, Mr. Sharp by Design himself. So you can find him on his website, and you can get in contact with him on Instagram as well. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
See you
Take care.
guys.